you know, I have this list of people that want to participate on these, and it just so happened that the people that were on the list, most of them couldn't do it tonight. So anyway, that's why I threw it out there. And Bonnie wrote back, and she was one of my people on my list, and she wrote back and said that she'd be willing. And then Marilyn said, I would love to hear Michele play the piano. So we're going to get that treat. We get to listen to Michele play for us tonight. So Bonnie, would you like to go first and tell us what you're going to do?
Sure. So this is nothing major, but I just want to give a little bit of history. First of all, I need to say I'm sorry. I've kind of been AWOL the last month, but between parent-teacher conferences, my daughter going on a mission, and my son getting married, every week has kind of been full. But so I'm excited to finally be back at choir. Tonight I am singing, it's just a little folk song. And my mother, when I was growing up, my mother was constantly singing or humming or whistling all day long, from morning to night. She had songs to wake us up. She had songs to put us to bed. She had songs if we were fighting. She had songs for everything. And eventually, she recorded all of these wonderful songs that she sang to us and created a CD for us. And I'm not going to play it for you because once you've heard my mother, you won't want to hear me because her voice is so much better.
We know your mom.
That's true. Many of you do know my mom. Anyway, so this song was a song, though, that I think her mom sang to her. This song was written in 1904 and was considered quite a popular song at that time. It was published by the York Company in New York. And it's just a cute little song. So the song is called You Mustn't Pick Plums from My Plum Tree. So fun little title.
This is precursor to popcorn popping.
yeah, precursor. All right, so I'm just going to get my pitch here. Just a second, because it is a cappella. Oh, of course, there it goes. Okay, here we go. In a children's schoolroom, boy stands to view. Teacher Jenny's making faces at you. Jenny said the teacher, when school is done, then a first-class spanking shall reward your fun. When in a garden, girlies at play, boy says, I'm sorry, I told today. Gee, those plums look juicy, such a bully sight. May I climb and pick one? But the girl replies, you mustn't pick plums from my plum tree, for I'm saving my plums, you know, for a nice little boy who's nice to me, who'll be my steady beau. No use you're hanging round the garden gate, for you don't stand 1, 2, 3. You can go and make eyes at some other girl, but you mustn't pick plums from my plum tree. Little boy gets angry, all right for you. Someday you'll be sorry, I'll get square too. I don't like you no how, I don't want your plums. You can't play my marbles, you can't chew my gum. Girlie starts crying, but smiles again. Says, here's my new beau, just down the lane. Don't you stop to quarrel, he's just twice your size. Little boy runs off then, while the girlie cries. You mustn't pick plums from my plum tree, for I'm saving my plums, you know, for a nice little boy who's nice to me, who'll be my steady beau. No use you're hanging round the garden gate, For you don't stand 1, 2, 3. You can go and make eyes at some other girl, but you mustn't pick plums from my plum tree. Go.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I've never heard that.
Well, I grew up hearing it, so among many others. But
Have
that
any
was
of the
just
rest
one.
of you heard that song?
No.
That's
New to
just,
me, I've never heard it.
That's
That was
wonderful.
fun.
That was
You
fun,
know,
Bonnie.
there were a whole bunch of songs that had that wonderful narrative beginning, and then it goes into the song and it tells this whole story.
Mhm.
And so as you're singing, Bonnie, and you told us that this came from your mom.
Mhm.
What are your musical influences? I mean, what brought all of you? What, somebody want to share what made you decide that you wanted to sing?
I think I couldn't help it. My mom, like I said, I grew up with her in the choir. She didn't retire till I was 16. I traveled with the choir a couple of times and went to rehearsal with her. And
You're talking
sometimes,
Tabernacle Choir. She knows
yeah, the
that I know that it
Tabernacle
was
Choir. Yeah. And I just always wanted to sing just like her. I used to lay with my head in her lap during sacrament meeting because I could hear the vibrations when she would sing the hymns. Anyway, and then as I got older, I accompanied her as she sang. And then I got to sing with her. And she never learned to sing parts because she always was a high colorature soprano. And so I had to learn to sing parts. So I always sang second or alto if it was just 2 parts. So yeah.
So anybody else want to share what their musical influence was?
My mom, my grandma was a music teacher. My mom, just like you were saying, I was laughing because if I ever come up in the circle in the cycle, I said the same thing. I actually have a written thing. My mom just sang around the house all the time. She was always singing.
Yeah.
And we started doing some kind of music. Well, what is it? Suzuki violin. And then it just goes from there, violin, piano, flute, singing.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Anybody else want to share what your influence was? Where did it start?
I'll share. My dad used to sing opera, so my influence was my dad. He was a mechanic for Western Airlines, and he built his own planes in the garage. And I used to sit outside the garage and listen to him sing as he worked on his airplanes. And
that's incredible.
I grew up listening to him sing opera, and he played the 33 records, and he would teach me all about opera and sing with them. And I just sat outside the garage door and listened to my dad sing, and knew that that's what I wanted to do.
That's cool.
That's great. Anybody else want to share?
I'd like to.
Go ahead.
My grandpa sings amazingly well. He's, how old is he now? He's over 80. He's probably 81 actually. He's 81 just now, and but he still has a good voice for an 81-year-old. I mean, it's pretty good still. And and his dad sang too. His dad was in a quartet and sang all over Draper. Way back. Probably doesn't seem way back to you guys. I don't know. Sorry, that was horrible. I can't believe I just said that.
It was okay. You're among friends.
Okay. Yeah, so my great grandpa sang. It is still way back to you guys. Yeah. Anyway, he sang, and then my grandpa sang all the time too, and sang in a quartet as well. And my mom loved listening to them sing, and so she hasn't sung in groups very much, but she was always singing in church and in ward choirs, and well, not always. She's kind of shy, but she's got a good voice and a really good ear. And I remember asking her in church why she wasn't singing the same notes as everybody else. And she explained to me what alto was. She was always singing alto. And so that was really cool. So it started with
That's
that.
great.
And then I was always in choir in school and college.
That's great. Just out of curiosity, is there anybody here that that didn't have a lot of music in their home, but they were drawn to it and have come to it on their own?
I mean, I had that. I didn't have music in my home at all. And my cousins and my aunt was a musician, and she's still alive. My aunt is actually Joseph F. Smith's granddaughter, and
Oh,
she's still alive. And although she didn't know him because she was one of the very end grandchildren, but she was very, very musical. And she told me, she said, you are musical. And I remember thinking, well, I'm 5. Why am I musical? But she put a little trio together. My grandfather ran the church services at the old Thomas D Hospital in Ogden.
yeah.
And she put a little trio of us together. And I found out, even though I sing for soprano, but I found out that I could harmonize as a really young kid. So I had a good enough ear to hear that. And I understood what it was because I like to listen to the Lennon sisters on Lawrence Welk. So then
Ogden and Lawrence Welk sort of go together.
Yeah. And so, then I got into guitar and the folk singing, the Kingston Trio, and singing with the guitar and playing and singing at the same time, Jane.
Not me.
That was
Not
it.
me. So I want to share something with you.
That's all. Sheldon wants to tell you he wants some more toys.
I want some more toys. And I want two dump trucks.
That's enough. And we walked around the corner and walked around the block and walked around and there's a lady up by St. Pete. Oh, she looked at the nickel and she looked at me. Gee, this nickel's no good to me, 'cause there's a hole in the middle and it's all the way through. Tonight there's a hole in your donuts too.
I know that song.
Now, when I heard the Ute Fight song, I thought that is not the Ute Fight song.
Mr. Johnny Rebecca could do me silly. I told you sorry for it.
See, the Utes stole Johnny Verbeck, So this was my upbringing. Everywhere we went, Dad and Mom would break out the songs. They would sing folk songs from Germany and Austria, and they'd sing little songs about pigs and cars, and so that's sort of, I mean, it was all of my youth. And I found this reel to reel last week and broke out all of the different pieces on it. I recorded separately all of the different songs that were on this reel to reel, which was really fun. So I just wondered where you guys got your musical backgrounds, where your musical interest came from. It's usually from somebody in your home, but that's why I wondered if anybody had an interest that wasn't because it wasn't in your home, but you found it somewhere else and were drawn to it. That's why I wondered. Okay, anybody else want to share before we listen to Michele?
One of the things my sister and I used to do, it would drive my mom nuts. Because remember, she was a music teacher. Well, she did a lot of music. My grandma was a music teacher. If you sing just like a quarter of a beat off pitch with each other, you get that beating sound. We would do that just to drive my mom nuts.
Or a half step sharp or a half step flat.
Well, with each other, yeah. So between the two of us, you get that beat going.
Yep, yep, yep.
My sister and my mom and I sound so much alike. We were sitting in Relief Society one time, and my sister was in the middle, and we started singing the hymn, and she burst out laughing. And I'm like, what is the problem? This is not a funny song, you know? And she said, trade me places. So I sat in the middle, and she sat where I was sitting, and we kept singing. And the person in the middle, like, you completely couldn't hear yourself at all. Like, you just disappeared. And
It's like the other voices come in and out your mouth.
Yeah. It was just the craziest thing ever. And so we sat and laughed all through Relief Society because you couldn't hear the person in the middle couldn't hear themselves. But anyway, it was funny.
My mother used to jazz up the alto part to the hymns. She'd be singing along, and then she'd make up some quiet little thing and sing it, and then she'd go on. Anyway. Okay, Michelle, are you ready?
Sorry, it keeps freezing. I can't.
Michelle? We should be able to hear you, and it's not coming through. You were coming through before. What happened?
Okay.
Are we back? There you go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can.
Okay. Well, so I waited because I knew I was, going to be up here to tell you sort of about the musical background, I guess. I was born in Salt Lake, but I grew up in Washington State, and I think I started taking piano lessons when I was probably 5 in kindergarten, and but I liked singing way better. I remember being 4 years old, and my mother said I would come in and say, "I'm so tired of singing Old MacDonald," because I would sing it to the kids in the neighborhood. And so, I don't remember that, but so anyway, the piano I liked, but the piano was in the scary basement with the plumbing and it was like the studs and everything. The basement was finished, and you're always for yourself. And so, and then we moved, and we lived with my grandparents for about a year and a half in Lewiston, Idaho. And Gramps was a band director in Carbon County in Price during the late 1920s and 1930s, when marching bands were at the height of popularity. It was like, if you were not, it wasn't like you were on a football team. If you were in the band, you were it. And Gramps had a wonderful career in Carbon County with the bands down there. And so he had retired, and they lived in Lewiston. And I was upstairs in their bed, in one of the bedrooms upstairs, and my family lived downstairs. So I felt like I was their child for a while. And Grammy taught me piano lessons, and Gramps would get up every morning and practice with me. And then my parents bought a house in Clarkston just across the river, and so I continued to take lessons from her. And I had a lot of teachers over the years. One time when we lived in Bellevue, my mother took me, my piano lesson was on Mercer Island, and it was this German guy, Dr. Trebich. And I look back and think, how could she drop me off to this German guy with a really thick accent in a dark room with a big piano all by myself for like an hour? But I don't know about him. But then we moved to Spokane, and she had me signed up with a teacher. And then Carolyn Brett moved into our ward, and I started taking from her. Now, I have never been to Branson, but maybe some of you have. She is the mother of the Brett family singers there.
Okay.
Tommy Brett, whose family is the Brett family singers. She's one of the most educated and fine musicians I've ever known. And I loved taking piano from her, and I was a horrible practicer though, because all I wanted to do was sing. In fact, I had a senior recital when I was a senior in high school, and I remember going to the choir room sometimes to practice, and like the choir teacher didn't know I played because I didn't want anyone to know I played the piano because I wanted to sing. Anyway, so I went to the Y, and I was in Program Bureau. I was in Sounds of Freedom. I took piano from John Longhurst my first year, and as a sophomore, I took from Paul Poli. And I went home, and I finished my second year at Spokane Falls Community College, and I ended up not singing in their group, but playing for them, and a musical group that was, on campus. Anyway, got married, blah, blah, blah. I never wanted to teach piano, but I ended up teaching, and I really enjoyed it. I loved the piano, and I didn't have really voice training. I had more piano training, and I teach Suzuki piano, and one of the finest teachers I've ever had was from Calgary. His name was Merlin Thompson. He would come periodically and teach, and I thought he was a brilliant teacher. Anyway, so long story short, I mean, I played the piano a lot. I used to play for, like, what did they call it? It was like junior Sunday school, like in junior high, and I played for primary when I was in high school, and I like to accompany in my ward in the choir and special music and stuff, but so I'm not playing anything really fabulous or whatever tonight. It's just a kind of formulaic arrangement by Larry Bybee of How Great Thou Art, and that's my husband's favorite hymn. So anyway, if I can get him up here so he can put my phone up, just a second, let me call him. Jane, you can talk or something.
Oh,
1 second.
okay. I'll talk.
Okay.
Does anybody else, while she's getting her husband, does anybody else want to share their beginnings?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He's coming.
Coming?
Yeah, he's coming. He's coming.
I would
So,
like to share something.
Okay, let Susan share something before you begin, Michelle.
Sure. We'll just get
My dad was very musical, and my beginnings were singing. I was the youngest child, so I had to go to ward choir with my parents. And that was my beginning, and that was my total training in life. I didn't start singing in a choir until I was a junior in high school.
Oh.
And I never had any training. I just think, so there is a place for ward choirs. It's great.
That's wonderful, Susan. Susan and I sang together at BYU for a short while. Are you ready, Michelle?
Can you see?
No, hang on here. I got to reverse it.
Yeah, just turn it around.
Did Michelle tell you that we met at a wading pool?
At a wading pool?
Yeah.
Not how we met.
The Trevi Fountain, right?
She won the wet t-shirt contest.
No.
Oh, gee.
Hang on.
Okay, here we go.
Working.
Now you
That
got
works.
Thank
Yep. I think
Hello,
that
everyone.
works well.
Okay, please.
Okay, I think we're good.
All right. Okay, this is dedicated to my friend Doris. And
Doris.
All righty. We'll hope this turns out.
She's on her phone.
Yay, Michelle.
It's beautiful,
How do I
Michelle.
How do
Now,
I turn
Michelle,
this around?
when you
Yeah.
get back and when we send out the link and you go back and listen to it, just understand that Zoom audio is just not going to capture everything you just did.
I know.
It's just, so don't, yeah. So, because that was beautiful. That was really lovely. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, so unless anybody has something else to share, next week we have our master class will begin at 6:30, so that we can be finished so that Rob Bott can teach his class. So Rob Bott's first class is next week. Remember, it's on basic ear training and being able to understand scales and key signatures and solfege and things like that. So I'll be sending out the information again on that so that everybody that wants to do it knows how to join into that meeting. And our master class will start at 6:30. Okay, a little bit earlier than normal. And like I said, I got this list of people who want to be a part of this, and we've got everything from acting to yodeling. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really great. So tune in every other week. We're going to do this all the way through December, and then we'll hold our breath and hope that at some point we'll be able to start back up and do things a little bit. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Anybody else have something that they would like to add?
I might have something. This isn't choir related, but Sarah, I don't want you to feel so bad for what you said about long ago. My daughter was at an emergency in a shed in the backyard, and she had to go help. She's a paramedic, and she had to go help someone. And she was telling me about it, and she says, I had to squeeze between this desk and these old-fashioned tools from the 70s. I was like, oh, the 70s are old-fashioned. She since has changed that because she got so much guff from the fire department. But yeah, old-fashioned tools from the 70s.
Well,
Those tools
you know,
haven't changed. A screwdriver is still a screwdriver.
but do you
That's
know
right.
that the young people right now are the people that are in their 30s are so much older than the teenagers of today, because technology and everything else has changed so much. You know, that's just changed so much that the people, I had to laugh. A young friend of mine was talking about how he felt ancient because he didn't understand the teenage lingo. And he's the same age as one of our kids. He's 33. I thought, well, okay, you know, thus it starts, and it's just going to get even more disparate because technology will change everything.
I
Anyway.
was talking about Christopher Columbus discovering America, you know, and one of my students asked me if I was alive then.
Way back then. Tell them that you'll invite me to class and they'll wonder if I was at the Ice Age.
I had one ask me if I was alive when dinosaurs roamed the earth. So
I
Were
was.
dinosaurs around when you were little?
They were around when I was little.
Suzanne. Okay, well, thank you all. Thanks, Michelle and Bonnie. That was wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate
Good
it.
job.
And it's good to see your faces, even if you don't say much. I just really love seeing you, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, if not next week, for masterclass. Okay. Okay. Good night. Thanks again, ladies.
Bye, everyone.